Well, hello and welcome to episode 142 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, today we're celebrating a very special anniversary, the Big 5-0, which is pretty monumental in terms of anniversaries. And the movie that is turning 50 years old is none other than the classic Bruce Lee film, Enter the Dragon.
Enter the Dragon, which is amazing because it doesn't look 50 years old. Yeah, it's, I mean,
It sure
I
doesn't.
can't believe. So Bruce Lee, this was his last full-length film. And
Yep.
he died like a month before this came out. And it came out 50 years ago, like the day of this release, if we released this when we recorded it, which we didn't do. But yeah, 50 years. I can't believe he's been gone 50 years because there's still quite a following of all of like his kung fu teachings and like all of uh kind of his philosophy on fighting without fighting and all of that.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. And Enter the Dragon was very kind of monumental in that sense, in the way it really kind of redefined a lot of this genre, right? Action stuff, martial arts stuff, and gave Bruce Lee posthumously kind of this big, huge following, and it really ripples of Enter the Dragon can be felt through even today. So we're going to be talking all about it here on its 50th birthday. Happy birthday! But before we do that, we need to whip up a cocktail that's going to go along great with this week's film. So let's take a quick break. We'll mix that up and we'll be right back.
So this week's cocktail is called the Dragon Hearts cocktail, and it comes from the Spruce Eats, which is one of our
Ooh,
favorite
it does.
pages to look at.
Yep.
We have seen a couple of really amazing cocktails from there before. When I saw this, I thought this is real busy, and this is going to either be
Fact.
amazing or awful. It's real busy. There's a lot of ingredients on this one. It's not hard to make. It's just a lot of stuff.
It is a lot of stuff. It's going to take you longer to get all of these bottles pulled out of your liquor cabinet than it is to actually make it. But it is kind of busy. Kind of like Enter the Dragon. It's kind of busy. It's got a lot going on here in a short amount of time, and that's what we're doing here with this cocktail. But it comes together pretty nice. And it's pretty simple once you get all of these things put together. So let's do this, Michaela. Let's mix one of these up real quick. So you're going to take 3 lime wedges. You're going to take 3/4 of an ounce of elderflower liqueur. Saint Germain is the one you probably know of, but any elderflower liqueur is going to do. And like 3 dashes of bitter. Go ahead and muddle those lime wedges up. It's going to get some lime juice out of there. It's going to get some oil out of the skin of those limes. And then you're going to add to that 1.5 ounces of aged rum, 3/4 of an ounce of mezcal. You could also use a Blanco tequila if you don't have a mezcal and don't feel like grabbing one of those. Half ounce of ginger liqueur, and then 1.5 ounces of blood orange juice. Now I have to say, here in the hot summer in North Carolina, I could not find a blood orange, so I used a regular old orange. I don't know that the flavor would have been that much different. It would have been a little bit more red hued probably, but I thought it was pretty nice with just the plain orange juice. So either way, pick your favorite fruit there and go to town. So give that a shake with some ice, strain it into like a martini glass, garnish with an orange slice, and you're good to go with your Dragon's Heart cocktail.
Yeah. Now, a word about aged rum, because we've used aged rum a couple of times on the
hmm
podcast
hmm
for previous episodes, but aged rum is different than spiced rum. I got a question about this actually the last time we did this, and aged rum is actually aged in barrels like a whiskey. So it's
hmm
going
hmm
to probably be a little bit more expensive, but it's going to add kind of this dark, smoky, earthy, oaky flavor to rum. It's quite delicious. And so I highly recommend getting yourself a little bottle if you like rum and seeing where that takes you, because I bet it's you're going to be not only able to make this, but a bunch of other really fun cocktails. So yeah, this was easier to put together than I originally thought, because there are about 13 ingredients or something, and they're all
Yep.
different. The fact that it's mezcal and rum together scared me a little bit.
Mm.
And I gotta say, the first sip that I took of this, it was very bitter. Now, one of the things that I did was I added another dash or two of bitters at the top. Um,
Mm-hmm.
of the cocktail, just to set it off, and it was very bitter, very bitter. But the second sip was like, this is awesome.
After you drank the bitters off the top there, you got down
Yeah.
into the orange. Yeah, yeah, for sure. It does say to put a couple of drops of bitters on top. I skipped that because I didn't really see the point in doing that myself. So yeah, go ahead and
Clearly,
mix this
Brian, the
up.
point was to take a sip and be like, "Ah, that was the point."
That's right. It's like Bruce Lee. It just comes out of nowhere and gets you. Um, yeah, I thought that this drink was pretty good. We were texting back and forth about it a little bit last night when we were trying this. I thought that it was good. I liked the orange. I liked the like the rum component to it. I didn't get a ton of the elderflower or really a ton of the ginger liqueurs, so those almost could have been omitted completely, and I wouldn't have really noticed. It it felt to me like this cocktail was good, but it was a little muddied tasting just because there was so much stuff going on in it. I would have liked it a little bit simpler, maybe. Like I said, maybe if you took out the ginger, maybe if you took out the elderflower, it would have been a little bit more straightforward. And I could have picked out those different ingredients better. But that said, I thought that this cocktail was pretty good. It was worth making. I enjoyed drinking it, but I thought that it was just a shot for the moon and kind of went right past.
Yeah, and I don't know how we've heard some things in the past where or done some cocktails in the past where we're like, yeah, that was awful. We got to fix it, and then we come back and fix it. I don't know what we could do to this one that would bring out those levels of flavors, just because there's so much in it.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think maybe if we did change things up a bit by adding more of the ginger liqueur and more of the elderflower, but then uh I don't know. I just think then it would also still get muddled. I don't know what I would do to fix this. It's perfectly good. And if you love, again, if you love the idea of rum, you should definitely try it. The mezcal adds a little bit of smokiness, and don't let the bitterness fool you. Just do what Brian did and don't put the two at the top, and you'll be fine.
That's right. That's right. Heed my advice. But yeah, this was pretty good. It's worth making, especially if you have these ingredients. I wouldn't necessarily rush right out and buy those, except maybe the aged rum. I would maybe go pick that up and try it out because you can use it for all sorts of stuff. You'll see them a lot of times like on restaurant menus, listed as like sipping rums, so you can use them for like rum old fashions. You can, just have some rum on the rocks, something like that. It's pretty good. So give this a try. Let us know what you think about it, and then make sure you join us here for the next section because we're going to be getting in to one of the most influential martial arts films of them all, in Enter the Dragon. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back to chat about it.
Spoiler warning for Enter the Dragon. If you've not yet seen Enter the Dragon, it's 50 years old, so you've had plenty of time. And I am no sympathy. But if you haven't seen it and you don't want us to talk about it, tough. So, because we're going to do it. So what you need to do instead is you need to press pause. You need to go make yourself a Dragon's Heart cocktail. Maybe hold half the bitters off and enjoy it that way. And then you can come back after you've watched Enter the Dragon. It's not too long, and we can chat about it because we're going to chat about all the things.
That's right. Yeah, tough if you haven't watched it, says Michaela. She is as
Tough.
cruel and ruthless as Han here is in this story. This was released in 1973, directed by Robert Klaus, who directed a lot of Bruce Lee's films. And it stars, of course, Bruce Lee playing Lee. Big leap there on the name. It also stars John Saxon and Jim Kelly. Happy 5-0, Enter the Dragon. Congratulations. This was showing at our local theater. It might have been showing at your local theater at the time we're recording this anyway for the 50th birthday. But I watched this from the comfort of my own home, as I do, having a Dragon's Heart cocktail, watching Enter the Dragon, and having a good time. And one of the neat things about Enter the Dragon is, you think about it, you think about Bruce Lee, you think it's going to be, kind of this martial arts thing. You might even know that it's kind of this like kind of this loose like martial arts tournament kind of thing that ends up happening. But what you might not know about Enter the Dragon is it is real inspirational. People love it, directors love it. Quentin Tarantino says it's one of his favorite films of all time, and you're going to see like homages to this film all over the place, including the 1998 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. There's a scene where Michelangelo is doing his little nunchuck face-off routine, and it comes like shot for shot from this movie. So a lot of films have parodied it and paid homage to it. And Enter the Dragon, big deal, Michaela.
It's a big deal. One of my favorite movies growing up watching was all about Enter the Dragon, and I never realized it because I was so young. And Enter the Dragon is rated R, rightfully so. We're probably going to talk about that, but because it is a more adult movie. When I was 6 or 7, I watched this movie called The Last Dragon, and it
Mm.
basically has the backdrop of Enter the Dragon in almost every scene. And so there's this guy who loves kung fu, and he wants to be a kung fu master, and he watches all of these Bruce Lee films, and the last one he ever did was Enter the Dragon. And so there's a lot of spoofs or parodies around certain aspects in scenes. And now that I've watched Enter the Dragon and studied it for the sake of the pod, I can pick up on that a lot more than I used to be able to, which is interesting. But yeah, this film is on, I don't know, some of our favorite directors, like top 50 films of all time.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely inspired a lot, and it was important. And as you mentioned, Michaela, it came out, right before or right after, the passing of Bruce Lee. So this is, in a lot of ways, kind of the pinnacle of his work. But unfortunately, passed away before I was able to see that and see, kind of the inspiration that he had, and in his career and in films like these. So let's get into the movie a little bit. The movie itself is actually fairly simple and straightforward. It's relatively short in comparison to a lot of the more modern films we've been talking about, which need to be twice this length for some reason. But basically, we're going to follow along the ploteteer of Lee, he's this martial arts guy in Hong Kong, and basically this British Secret Service guy comes in and says, "Hey, we're going to need your help. You're real good at martial arts. There's this martial arts contest going on in this island that's ran by this like crime lord guy. You seem to be our option here. I have a couple questions about the thinking behind this, because even Bruce Lee says, "Why don't you go in there with a gun and shoot this guy?"
Truth.
And Braithwaite's like, "No, we can't do that. We need some subtlety here." But then they just end up showing up in helicopters. Anyways, so I don't know why we could
Yeah.
have just done that from the start. Would have saved a lot of headaches, a lot of fighting, and a lot of running around. Lots of weird hand claw things that pop out. Bruce Lee knew. He's like, I don't want to go fight these people on this island. What are you, nuts? But he ends up having to do it.
That's right. He does have some interesting, and they're like, we don't know. There was a war. We're not exactly sure which one. But they're like, there was a war, and we don't know who owns. I mean, we know Han. There's this bad guy Han. He owns this island, but we don't know if it's like a Chinese island or if it's a Japanese island. We don't know. It's in the middle of the ocean, and it's completely self-sufficient. And so they really laid this out as like this no man's land kind of task, right? And Bruce Lee,
Hmm.
he's pretty
Hmm.
smart, and he's like, so you need me to do what now? You need me to go and gather evidence that we could definitely use to put this guy away. Whether it's like drugs or arms that he's getting, if it's like a prostitution sex ring kind of thing going, like he's got to go. And then he's like, well, then what? I call you and you bring in help. And they're like, well, we'll call somebody else and they will bring help. Like, so I don't know if the British Secret Service or not. I have no idea. It's this unknown organization that basically just calls people. It's like the
Just
Brink security system of the world. So they're not actually going to do anything, but they'll
yeah,
call somebody on your behalf and say, please come help,
yeah.
help us out.
Yeah, Bruce Lee is like the Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible, I guess, in this world here of Enter the Dragon. You just leave word, and hopefully that he takes care of the problem. But yeah, he's going to go and go into this fighting tournament, kind of undercover, to, I don't know, like unveil the secret terrible stuff that this Han is doing. And he finds out that one of Han's henchmen has killed his sister, or is responsible for his sister's death. That's not great. That's going to kind of propel him on to this island and join into this shenanigans that's going out. And there's a couple other key figures here that are going. We've got Roper, who's played by John Saxon. He's going, and Jim Kelly, who's playing the character of Williams, are also going to enter kind of this karate tournament kind of thing. They're really presented as kind of this karate tournament, but there's not really much like tournamenting that happens. This movie kind of paved the way for stuff like Bloodsport, which is very much like this fighting tournament where you see the tournament play out. But this is kind of like everyone shows up on the beach and they have a fight and then they just go away. It's not really a movie about this tournament as much as it is about Bruce Lee being like James Bond of this island.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I do like, there's certain aspects of it that I really do like so Roper, Williams, and Lee, that you both see kind of their backstories of why they're on the island or what they were doing before. Roper is this martial artist who also owes a lot of money due to his gambling. Jim Kelly, this guy's amazing. I love this actor. I am sad to say I've not seen Enter the Dragon like in its entirety in a very, very long time. And so
Mhm.
I found his Jim Kelly's acting amazing, and I need to learn more about him, because apparently this is his breakout role. But he and Roper were fellow veterans. They served in Vietnam, and Jim Kelly's also a martial artist, and he is like leaving. They show his backstory, so they kind of show all these folks um, getting onto this boat, and they make some comments about kind of the socioeconomics around China, and how there are slums in China the same way that there are slums all over the world, and it's not okay. And and what we're going to this a guy who owns an island, and then there are these people kind of looking on that probably are starving. And I kind of like that, where there was some it was a lot more thoughtful than just Bruce Lee going in and stopping this bad guy, and I kind of like that.
Mhm.
But you're right, there wasn't a whole lot of like understanding of what the tournament's about, because really at the end I think Han's tournament was just so he could find people that were really cool at, really good at martial arts, that he could then hire to
Mhm.
do some of his dirty work, like, kidnap women and pull them into slavery or sex trafficking, and drug running and arms dealership, and all of these
Right.
bad
Mhm.
things that Han was doing. And so the best I could tell, the reason why he had this tournament was he was kind of separating the good from the very, very good, and then trying to hire on the very, very good folks.
To get them going there. Yeah, absolutely. I really like the scene of going to the island where they get on this boat. It looks awesome. I don't really know how they filmed it, if it was done like from other boats or if there was a helicopter or what, but it's this really great like shots of these guys which look by all, intending purposes that they were on like this real boat. And I like you kind of get that theme there from Bruce Lee. He's fighting with this other like knucklehead who's being a jerk, and none of the other people seem to like him, and he's like challenging Bruce Lee to a fight, and Bruce Lee's like, I'm not going to fight you, right? Like I can fight you without fighting. And he's like, what are you even talking about? And he's like, well, let's go get in that other little boat, we'll go over there and we'll fight. There's not enough room here to fight. And I like that. And they like goes down to the boat, and Bruce Lee like just lets the boat go adrift, and they're like got the kid pulling him along, and the boat's like taking on water. It's pretty great. Like, what'd you think was going to happen, guy? But they end up getting to the island, and they're kind of they're shown around the island there by the caretakers. They get shown to the room. They have like this big like elaborate party. I thought that the party looked really cool. There were like 10,000 bird cages hanging from the ceiling. There's like sumo wrestling going on. There's a bunch of girls there and stuff like that. And they come out and they're doing like this thing. Was it like an apple or pears or something? They're like chucking up, and these girls were like throwing these little like throwing knives into you. That was really cool. And then everyone kind of retires for the night. And I guess if you're going to the private island of some crime lord guy, they're going to send some ladies your way to the room. So of course, Roper's going to take a liking to kind of this head lady. Williams is going to take a liking to several ladies, but Bruce Lee is he has his eye on one particular one, because I think she's some sort of like an informant for this
Yeah.
British intelligence people, right? And that's going to give him kind of the information he needs to go about his James bonding on the island.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like some of this was very like whimsical of the time, right? The costuming was really great. Um, because while it's an Eastern, and there are definitely a lot of kind of Chinese homages, right? The colors were very like 1973. There's a lot of neons and a lot of like that paisley and that kind of like really funky cuts of the way in which the boot cut jeans and things like that I thought were really neat. This party is interesting because this is when Roper and Williams talk a bit, and Roper's like, I've never seen a tournament that has these kinds of parties. There's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of women. Usually, these things are like, you need to go prepare and ready yourself for all of these fights. He says, I think we're being fattened up for the slaughter. And it's interesting because later that night, all of this woman like brings all these other women to the different men for, I don't know what we think it's all for. And I found that really interesting, that wasn't enough for Bruce Lee to be like, well, clearly there's enough evidence here. We've got like a slew of women. None of them particularly look happy to be there. I bet they're not here on their own, but that's not enough. Bruce Lee still has to like stop Mei-Ling and talk to her a little bit, and then he escapes the room, even though they're not allowed to leave, and he goes and tries to find like a secret bunker.
Mhm.
Jim Kelly also leaves, and kind of thwarts these guards that aren't very good at their job.
Terrible,
Like,
terrible guards. Yeah.
they're really bad.
I mean, they end up paying for it
They do.
for sure because yeah. So Bruce Lee is sneaking around, he's getting all sorts of information about this thing, which seems like information that the British intelligence already basically knew when they knew he was a crime lord and he had his own private island. What do you think he was doing there? Raising puppies for for children's hospitals? I don't think so. So basically, these guards that are bad at their jobs, they meet a grisly end from like the main enforcer guy. His name is Bolo. He's played by Bolo Young. Bolo Young is awesome. He apparently has 113 acting credits, which is great because I think that he's awesome. I always think of him from Bloodsport. He was in like all of the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, which is really pretty fun. He is this huge, like larger than life person. Goes in, dispatches of these two knuckleheads that were not very good at being guards, and
Oh,
that's kind of how like this first section goes, and then we get into like the I don't know like this tournament, right? And we see our first kind of action here with Bruce Lee fighting this guy. He's fighting that the O'Hara guy that was the one that chased down his sister and caused his sister to have to run herself through with some broken glass. That's not a good look. But O'Hara, is going to take a couple of beatings before O'Hara decides to take matters into his own hand, break a couple of glass bottles, and goes after Bruce Lee. But Bruce Lee ends up knocking him down and doing some like crazy like thunder stomp on his chest and takes him out of there. And at that point, Han says, "There's been too much dishonor today. Our fighting tournament must stop after this one fight. Everyone go back to your rooms. Don't leave your rooms. It'll be fine." But someone is going to leave his room, and that is Williams, and he's going to get taken under the wing of Han. At least he thinks.
right. Yeah, it's not good. This scene was really hard because he talks to him and he says, "Hey, do you want to join my gang?" Basically, and Williams is like, "No, I don't." And so they start to fight, and that's when you realize, or at least I'm just really incapable of looking at details, but this is when I noticed that Han, he's like only fighting with one hand in a couple of in this altercation, and then all of a sudden he he gets Williams down on the ground and starts like hitting him in the face, and it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty bloody for 1973. I don't know what I was expecting, because 1973 is only two years away from Jaws, right? Like, which yeah. So I don't know what I was expecting, but it's like, oh man, okay. And so he basically kills Williams in this drug den with all these women that have got like love and peace painted on their face or a giant heart, and they're all laughing because they're high as kites, and they're like, haha, and he's like trying to get Han off of him, and we realize that Han is missing a hand. And the hand that we saw in the museum, I think, is his hand. I don't really know the whole story. Maybe I missed that, but it's really bad because Williams ends up getting like super bloodied. And the next time we see him, he's like wrapped up in chains, and he's going to be like disposed of in this weird vat of boiling gray water.
Yeah, it is. It's bad news,
Right?
bad news. Yeah, and yeah, Han has like this museum of all of his own like prosthetic hand weapons, which isn't great. And since Williams was not up to the task of being the right hand, I guess, to Han, or the new enforcer for Han, maybe Roper is up to the challenge, right? So Roper goes, then he has kind of his one-on-one with Han, and Han is like, "Will you do whatever it takes?" And Roper's like, I just need some money, I guess, so I'll do whatever. There's a very disturbing scene with you think this cat is going to meet a grisly end. The cat doesn't, because Roper's like, "No, I can't do that." And Han says, so there is something, a line too far for you. And then they go down, they're walking through, he's going through, like showing him like, this is where we make the opium, and this is where I keep my slaves, and this is where I do all this stuff. And then they come across Williams, and then Roper's like, "This is my bridge too far. I'm out of here. I'm going." So that
Yeah.
ends that meeting. And then we're back to like like our final day of tournaments. This tournament has been the worst tournament ever. They only had one fight so far, but they're back on the beach for another go. Bruce Lee now has found all of the stuff that he needed to find, I guess. He's radioed back to the British intelligence. Doesn't know if they got the message or not. So it's going to be up to him, I guess, to
Right.
use this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, so Mei Ling is down in in the dungeon, letting out all of the slaves. Now the slaves, they don't look particularly happy, and I think it's because the opium keeps them kind of addicted. So they're not going to go anywhere or do anything because they're really addicted to opium, which is totally gross and sad. But I guess she lets them out to go wreak havoc on all of the other students because this is supposed to be like a school of martial arts, when really it's just a cesspool of badness. But so Han finally says, okay, I need you, Bruce Lee, you and Roper are going to fight each other. And Roper's like, I'm not going to fight my friend. And he's like, well, then you can fight Bolo, which is, the big dude who like broke someone's face and neck and back the day before.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not excited to see this at all. At least I'm not, because Bolo Young, he's amazing. You were correct, but he's terrifying. He has this like really maniacal face. It's
He's
awesome.
he's like 100 feet tall.
He's
He's
100 feet
he's
tall. He's
he's ripped.
incredibly ripped. He could sit on me and I would probably die. Like, and yet he's like stepping on people's necks and turning, and the sound editing is just really gross. You hear the cracking and the popping. That's
Oh,
amazing. It's
gross.
amazing.
Yeah.
Tarantino, this is where you got it from. I get it now. I get it. But the scene is actually really interesting because Roper does actually win, amazingly enough. And so, now, and then Bruce Lee ends up going after Han. And Han is wise enough to know that, hey, maybe I'm not going to be able to get close enough to use my giant, like, iron hand that I used on Williams. So I'm going to go and get this, like, Wolverine-esque claw with Byzantium clawness. And,
Yeah.
They enter into this fight and Bruce Lee gets cut all to heck. And we enter that famous scene with the mirror room. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is amazing.
It's very good. I mean, I'm terrified, and the blood is like, I don't know how they did. I mean, I'm sure I know how they did it, but like the blood that is showing, it gets worse over the course of time. So it's like they've paid really good attention to the violent special effects.
Yeah, it has that very kind of iconic scene. He takes that first cut like around his, or like across like his abdomen, and Bruce Lee, kind of puts his finger in it and licks it, and then he's like, "All right, game on." But he ends up, he gets cut like across the face like 100 times, like this thing. The fight does not seem to be going particularly well for Bruce Lee, and they go into that room of mirrors. Why do you have just a random room of mirrors, Han? I don't know, but Bruce Lee eventually decides that I need to start breaking these mirrors. Then I can see where he is, and eventually kind of gets the one up on Han there. I think one of the things, and I don't know, like I don't pretend to be some sort of expert on martial arts films, but I think the way that this was filmed was really kind of revolutionary. There is a lot of first person perspective in these fights, which seemed to be kind of, I don't know, revolutionary in a way. And now you see kind of more first person perspective in fights, especially, kind of going into, martial arts films, which had kind of, obviously, kind of the pinnacle here with Bruce Lee, but then that really carried over like into the next 10 years and kind of led into, like the action hero genre. So seeing stuff more from kind of this first person perspective and these fast cuts and the way that the fight scenes were choreographed and stuff like that. And the last kind of encounter here between Bruce Lee and Han is really pretty epic. It goes through that museum where Bruce Lee kind of sees that like iron hand and he's like, oh, well, that's not great. He's got all these hands he's going to use to chop me up. But eventually gets one up on Han, gets back out. As you said, Mei Ling had like freed the slaves, so there's like this big like all out war going on the beach, between Han's like would be henchmen and all of these prisoners, and then of course you have Roper's out there still fighting and doing his best. And about this time, the British intelligence or whoever show up on their
whoever they
bright,
called. No, it wasn't them. It was
yellow.
someone else that they called, because he called somebody who has a colonel.
they're very yellow helicopters, which is not the best color if you're trying to surprise someone to have a yellow helicopter, I would say. But they show up and everything is fine because Bruce Lee and Roper exchange a thumbs up to let you know that everything is going to be a-okay, and that's where the movie ends. So there's I don't know. This movie was revolutionary for what it did, the way I think a lot of it in the way that it was edited, the way that like the sound design worked, the way that it was choreographed and staged, and like I said, it kind of set the tone for what people could expect from a modern like action, martial arts kind of fighting story in that sense. But the breadth of the actual story is pretty thin. Enter the Dragon, I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, there was honor, there was fighting for honor, there was a sense of brotherhood.
Yep.
There was some socioeconomic pieces to it that I enjoyed. But at the end of the day, this is just like a good versus evil journey. And I don't know. I really liked some of the martial arts. We should say all of the martial art choreography was done by Bruce Lee. He choreographed all of it, and some of it was actually really amazing that
Mhm.
you see now in like martial arts films, like you said, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's one scene that is almost, I feel like this like chopping of the back, his I don't know how to explain it, but they're like touching as they begin, and then he ends up Bruce Lee ends up hitting like the back of the person without like, and it's so fast. What I hear is that they had to slow down some of the film in order to be able to see him move, because it was very,
Mm.
very fast. He was just so fast. And one thing that I do really like about this is the juxtaposition of Bruce Lee and Bolo Yeung, because Bolo is this huge hulking guy, and Bruce Lee is like tiny compared to him. I mean, he's quite fit, right? But he's like kind of wiry almost, because Bolo is like humongous, and so you're
Bruce Lee has like a 20-inch waist,
right. So you're not nearly as scared
and
of Bruce
Bolo has like
Lee,
a
and
20-inch thigh.
exactly. And you're not, but you should be. You're much more scared of Bolo than you are Bruce Lee. But at the end of the day, you should be really scared of Bruce Lee, because he was hard, man. He was able to like fight, I don't know, 8 people at once, and it was like no big deal. And the way in which they choreographed that was pretty amazing.
Mhm.
And this was really special because it was filmed in Hong Kong, on location. It was it's something that really opened the door, and further for Hollywood to have an appreciation for kind of Eastern films and kind of kung fu films in general. There's like this opened the door to a whole group of kind of martial arts films in general.
Mhm.
And this, the cherry on the cake of Bruce Lee's career. And it's so unfortunate that he passed, because he was so young, and who knows what more could have been done that was even more creative and more kind of shining the light on this cultural phenomenon that we had not seen before. I mean, I remember my dad saying that, nobody wanted to be like a martial artist until this film came out, and then
Mhm.
everybody was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" Like, and the idea that it was also based in peace, like fighting without fighting, and not learning this so that you could go and beat people up necessarily, but that you could go
Mhm.
and fight for truth and honor and defend your sister. you know
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think when Bruce Lee fights that first kind of main henchman guy that had caused his sister to take his her life, what was the name, O'Hara, like O'Hara like comes, he like brings this board out and like smashes it like right next to Bruce Lee's head, and Bruce Lee just kind of looks at him and is like, that board can't punch back, which is a pretty great sentiment. And Bruce Lee is excellent in this. He's very quiet and composed and stoic, kind of as you'd imagine, but his line delivery is really good. In here, he could tell that kind of this point in his career is really coming into, obviously he was, this martial arts expert and, very good kind of at that craft, but the craft of acting was something now that he was coming into his own too. So I think that that is really great. And then, kind of the characters here, played by John Saxon and Jim Kelly, were also really great, really well acted. You could tell that Jim Kelly was kind of, bursting onto the scene. He had a lot of kind of this was exuding kind of this confident personality that was very interesting and fascinating to watch kind of here in this. And John Saxon's more kind of aloofness, I guess, to the
Yeah.
situation almost. And I really like kind of the way they played off of them. I thought that a lot of the way that stuff was shot, I mentioned the stuff with the boat was really great. There was some like actually like high up like stuff that must have been filmed up on some sort of like rig, like to get some really great like top down stuff like on the beach of kind of this fighting ring that had gotten set up, or the shots of the island like coming into the island and stuff were all really really good. And yeah, you could tell, I mean, and in one hand, this is a film from 1973. It's just this, kind of martial arts action piece. So to that stance, it's very simple, but kind of what it did, thematically and how it told that story was really revolutionary. Like I said, in a lot of ways, and we've talked about a lot of things, that really pushed the bar, forward in terms of special effects or the way that, scripts were done or the way that stories were told. But this one, definitely felt like it was kind of like that first step in the way that Hollywood was going to start making action films.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things I also really liked was the score. I thought the score was really neat. The Lalo Schifrin, I'm hoping that I'm saying their name correctly. They're actually an Argentinian musician composed the
Hmm.
musical score. And so it's kind of this jazzy, very of the times, right? It had this definitely had this kind of Eastern sound, like but overlaid with like these very kind of trendy funk vibes that was really cool.
Mhm.
Especially that it's not a horrible scene, but it's hard to watch. The scene where Williams is getting beaten to death in this kind of den of opium, where everyone's just kind of laughing,
Mhm.
and the music behind it is is kind of haunting. Really thought that was very special. I mean, I think aside from that, this film made a boatload of money. I mean, the I think it was like an $850,000 budget, which is pretty cheap,
Mhm.
even back in the day. But it made over like 100 million US dollars upon its initial 1973 worldwide release. Right. It had numerous kind of release dates and release parties. So it released in North America and Europe. It released in Hong Kong and Japan, and it just kind of took the world by storm.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big deal then. It's a big deal now, and it's been very inspirational all along the way. So that is Enter the Dragon. It was really good. It was great to revisit it. I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I would have probably seen the edited for TV version. So there was a lot of stuff that was happening, kind of post party and in terms of like the drugs and stuff like that I didn't really quite remember kind of that full story bit there. But it was great to revisit this one. So that's Enter the Dragon. Let us know what you think about Enter the Dragon or what your favorite Bruce Lee movie is. Let us know if you make a Dragon's Heart cocktail. If you do, take pictures, send them in to us. So we want to see what you're crafting up at home. Or if you have another Enter the Dragon cocktail that you like, send that our way. You can do that on our social medias. It's Instagram and Threads at Drink the Movies and on Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of ours, episode recaps, the recipes, all that stuff, you can go to our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. And if you want to check out the podcast, dive a little bit deeper, get some behind the scenes content, some bonus episodes, cocktail hangouts, all that stuff, you can do that on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Drink the Movies. We definitely appreciate our patrons and people that want to go above and support the podcast over there. That is really pretty great. Michaela, we're doing 2 of these drops a week. We got the movies on Thursday. We've got our lobby bars on Monday. People want to make sure they're getting those. Where can they get subscribed to the pod?
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Good Pods, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are distributed and supported. If you're hearing us right now, there's a subscribe button somewhere on your rectangle. You just press that button and you're going to get 2 drops a week. We really love the community that we've built, talking about movies and music and cocktails. The love for liquor is really high for us, and we hope it is for you too. Please join us. I think it'd be
Yep,
join us.
that's right.
It really helps
Uh,
us get the drink the movies out there.
Yeah, Michaela has started the episode sounding like Han. She's ending the episode sounding like Han. Yeah, join us for sure. We're gonna have a lot of good fun. And next week we're gonna have some more fun too. We're coming with another classic, Pretty Woman. Next week, I'm sure Michaela's got some sort of pink cocktail subscribed for that one. So make sure you get subscribed and follow along. You can get that one when it comes out next week. So that is it for Enter the Dragon. It is a classic. I don't know what else we could say about it to do it any justice that hasn't already been said, but it's pretty great. Check it out if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a while. It's worth your while to go back and revisit. So thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time on
Drink
Drink
the
the
movies.
Movies.
I love it when she's like, "You can't leave," and he's like, "Yeah, bye."
Why were you
Tips.
outside? I was outside. Oh, but that wasn't me.